If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
So we will talk about the development happening in that Bucks Heat series in a second. But I do want to quickly, because we didn't mention it last week, and we had more fallout from the awards given out on Monday. So I want to mention it real quick. Jalen Brunson, he came in a distant third place for NBA Most Improved Player. He was one of the finalists, but he did not finish higher than third in that running. It was Lauri Markkanen of Utah Jazz who was announced as the winner on Monday night. He won that award going away. That comes just days after Malcolm Brogdon beat out Immanuel Quickley for the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award. Quickley was at one point seen as the favorite to take home that trophy. So I'll start with the Brunson thing because that's the most recent thing. Are you surprised by how far the voting was? He got only 4 first place votes when it came to the most improved player.
Yeah, I was. I wasn't surprised that he lost, but I was surprised that it was as lopsided as it was. You know, there's a great case to be made for Markkanen. I think the argument against Brunson, if you listen to some folks, is he was so good the second half of last season. You know, from December when Luka went down to the end of the regular season, and then obviously stepped his game up to another level in the postseason, which we've talked about. So I think that, his expectations were ramped up. So while he exceeded the expectations and improved year to year in terms statistically, I think a lot of folks obviously weren't expecting him to play as well as he did, which is why he was one of the finalists for the award. But for Markkanen, who was kind of jumping around from team to team, hadn't really established an identity, to go to Utah and really play at the level that he did, I think it does make sense in that respect.
Yeah, I was no problem with Markkanen winning that award. I mean, I've been a Markkanen fan who felt disillusioned by his own play. I thought he could be an all-star player when he was drafted and when he was coming up in Chicago, and he never seemed to reach that potential. So this season was a great surprise to me. Like, I thought the fact that he was the main piece that they got in that Donovan Mitchell trade, I didn't think was great by Utah, but I thought they in part wanted it because they wanted to lose. I think he kind of ruined some. I think he ruined some of their plans by being an All NBA caliber player. So, shout out to Lauri Markkanen. He had a great season, so he definitely deserved to win. I was a little surprised just how the voting worked in terms of why he won by such a large margin. I think we've seen some inconsistency when it comes to like how these awards have been given out. I mean, it was our own producer, Jimmy Jackson here, who made a great point about how last year, Ja Morant, who was a guy who was already an established star, won, and he was saying, "Hey, I'm gonna give the award to Desmond Bane because he's really more of the spirit of the award than me being an all-star winning this award." And then we see other years where they do kind of lean on the guy who nobody really expected to do much to say, "Okay, now this guy deserves this award," and maybe a guy who's more of a role player, things like that. It does leave a little inconsistency. I think that is something to be fair. To be spoken about. So if you're an OKC fan saying, "Hey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he should fit right into that Ja Morant mold." I mean, he went from being a star player into a superstar player, averaging 30 points a game. Like, why did he get more votes? And if you're a Knicks fan saying, "Hey, why is Jalen Brunson and how he played in just part of last season mean that he essentially was disqualified from winning the award this season when you're supposed to look at his overall totality of his season last season compared to what he's done for a totality of this season?" Also, it's a regular season award, so how does playoff performance from last year incorporating this? So this is the one award. Honestly, I think this award may have kind of more weird kind of both this and the Sixth Man I've learned now has kind of weird non-rules that kind of allow people to kind of vote however they want. So Markkanen winning was fine because he was very deserving. I was a little surprised as how wide it was. Maybe not so much Brunson. I thought Shai would give him a little bit more of a run than what he got. But congrats to Lauri Markkanen for winning the award. And then on the Sixth Man of the Year, that's another one where I feel like, again, the Sixth Man award thing was weird because there was a time where IQ after the Boston game where he goes off, he was seen, all right, this guy, he's probably locked up the Sixth Man of the Year. He's a favorite. And then it just seemed like there had been, I don't like to use the word agenda, but it just felt like there had been an agenda created by national media members to explain why IQ should not win. It was, well, look at Brunson, as you look at it, Brogdon's kind of like traditional stats, points per game and all that stuff being a little better. Look at, the fact that Brogdon, didn't start this season and IQ started all these games, which was weird because there have been guys who have started 30 games in a season that have won Sixth Man of the Year. It just seemed like there was all these excuses being made for why it couldn't be Immanuel Quickley, and it was almost like there was a momentum that then shifted back to Brogdon by the last week or so being the favorite to win. And that's unfortunate, man, because Immanuel Quickley has been so good on both ends of the court. He's been such a net positive on both ends of the floor. And to me, when I think of sixth man, I think of a guy who comes into the game and changes the course of the game. Like the game gets flipped by his presence on the floor. That's a true sixth man to me. This is a guy who could be a starter. So when I look at the net rating being one of the main stats that I look at it, I say Brogdon, when the Celtics, he's out there, the Celtics are the same team, essentially. They're essentially the same team when Brogdon's out there than when Quickley's out there. And that's crazy because Quickley sometimes is coming in for Jalen Brunson. Let's think about that. Like Brogdon's coming in for Marcus Smart, Immanuel Quickley's coming in for Jalen Brunson, and that's the net value he's putting up. I just didn't get how he got disrespected, in my opinion, with how they gave out that award and some of these narratives that came out in the last week about why he shouldn't have won it. I think a lot of folks, I think the one thing the NBA needs to do, they need to do a better job of allowing advanced statistics to be more prevalent in their presentation. I think, a lot of people will complain about baseball, but I think it's one of the things baseball does do well, that they are pushing it. So it allows fans to, okay, maybe you don't get why batting average isn't as important, but like they're trying to explain it to you. I just feel like there are a lot of stats that clearly showed Immanuel Quickley was the most impactful sixth man, but it's not accessible to everybody. So not everybody knows what you're talking about, or not, a lot of people don't know what these things like net rating mean, or the defensive win shares mean, or what any of those things mean. So they're like, I don't know that. I know that Brogdon averaged more points, so he should win. So that was unfortunate for Immanuel Quickley. I hope at some point the NBA does a better job of incorporating those stats in their presentations of games on their website so that people can have a better picture of these things. They are things that teams are using in the NBA to build teams. Like this is how you become a smarter sports fan.
Totally agree. And you have a lot of fans, a lot of analysts not only don't incorporate it, but actively push back against any discussion of it. You're a nerd if you look at anything other than your eye test or anything other than points per game, like that. That kind of antiquated line of thinking is becoming a little bit outdated. You're seeing more and more as you get kind of more knowledgeable analysts and younger, fresher blood kind of in the game, speak to the importance of it. And again, you're not completely disregarding the eye test. You're not, you don't pretend, you still watch the game. You just have this other information that informs your point of view and gives you a little bit more, deeper knowledge, context based, because the biggest NBA fan can't watch, 82 games of Brogdon and 82 games of Quickley and 82 games of Jokic. And, it's just there's not enough time. They play at the same time. As we were talking about before we went on, that some games start at 10:30. It's not feasible. But yes, I totally agree with you on the IQ point. To me, the weirdest argument against IQ, and this seems to really be, I don't want to say the only argument, but the strongest argument against IQ was he started a bunch of games. Like, yeah, but that's what you want in a six man. If your starter goes down, he has the ability to not only play well off the bench, but to slide into the starting lineup for 5 games at a time and then go back to the six man, then start 3 games when the starter sprains an ankle, then start 4 games in a row when he, is non-COVID, whatever the case might be. The ability to kind of shuffle in and out of the starting lineup while still maintaining, as the central focus of that bench unit, is a feather in his cap. It strengthens his case as opposed to weaken it. So that's the one thing, as far as a narrative, point of view that I really didn't understand, how somehow it was better that Brogdon didn't start a single game. And not only did it not benefit IQ's case, but somehow worked against them. That I didn't get. I think it's all roped into. We talked a little bit about the the most improved player. We've talked about it during the MVP. There's no set definition, like to this day, what makes a player most valuable? Is it the best player on the best team, or is it the best player? All these things. So while it makes for interesting conversations on sports talk radio and podcasts and First Take, etc., For guys like IQ, it kind of sucks because there's, that you can't point out to why he didn't deserve it, why Embiid, Jokic had better number, all these other things. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if there's, a lot of it's subjective or subjective and all that other stuff. But yeah, in this particular case, I thought IQ got a raw deal.
Yeah, I thought he did. And again, like thinking about the case for, IQ started so many games. I mean, Lamar Odom won the Sixth Man of the Year award in 2011. He started 35 games that year. And I also think that, like, I'm not even, for me, like, I'm not even so frustrated that, he started a lot of games means that shouldn't be a part of the equation. I think that why you start is important. I think if you're a guy who mostly starts or started halfway, they just been yanking you in and out of the starting lineup, that's more of a case to say, okay, that guy a true six man, or is he a guy who can start and sometimes he doesn't? Like IQ only was getting inserted because guys were getting injured.
Right.
Quentin Grimes was getting injured. Jalen Brunson was getting injured. RJ Barrett got injured. And IQ was always the guy that stepped in, which again, think about those guys. 3 totally different players. Yep. Small forward, a shooting guard, a point guard. And IQ was able to sub in for all of those guys and excel. And then he'd say, well, his numbers were better as a starter. I'm like, doesn't that show how good he is? Like, I don't get that. So that to me was frustrating too. It was like, well, he starts a lot. It's like, well, he's starting because guys are getting hurt. That is the literal definition of a guy being a sixth man, a guy who comes in and can play like a starter when these things happen. I think that the circumstances should have been considered more if people were upset about the fact that he started so many games. But yeah, I thought it was a raw deal IQ got. But hopefully he'll be able to at some point kind of turn this thing around and he can kind of make a statement maybe in these playoffs by why he should have got this award. And maybe it'll be in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. Maybe. Let's see. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.